It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
All right. What a difference a week makes. My goodness. Unbelievable. In 2024, we still got to talk about COVID, man. I got hit so hard over the last 7 days, even yesterday, just congestion, coughing. Now, I will admit it, I have not talked all that much the last couple of days. I mean, we've done some daily news updates, but those are pretty quick. But I feel better. I really do. I have my Nespresso coffee ready to go. Got a giant thing of water ready to go. And we won't overdo it tonight, but we'll have a fun show nonetheless. So I want to welcome each and every one of you to this latest edition of The Sit Down. It is Sunday night, the 29th of September, 2024. We just went through, my God, a whole bunch of sensationalism about this Mr. McMahon documentary. This Monday on Raw is the go-home show for Raw for Bad Blood. Tuesday is the CW debut of NXT on the CW network. Wednesday, the 5-year anniversary of AEW, and I believe Tony Khan will make the announcement of the TV deal. I could see it already. 5 years ago, we started on this network, and I am happy to say that we will be here for at least the next 5 years. I see that happening Wednesday. Then we have Bad Blood next weekend. So tomorrow night, Kevin and I have a pretty loaded show. We're going to be getting into the McMahon documentary. We're going to do Bad Blood predictions, NXT predictions, talk about everything going on in the world of pro wrestling and beyond. So it should be a fun show. Should be a really fun show. I want to thank you all for joining me. For those that may not know what the Sit Down actually is, I call it the lazy show. I basically interact with all of you. Whatever is on your mind, that's what we talk about tonight. In order to be part of the conversation, all you need to do is just show up live in the chat room. It costs nothing. If you just want to sit back, relax, and enjoy the conversation, and by all means do so. You know, big shout out to everybody who joins us live. Big shout out to everybody in the archive. Special shout out to our Patreon family and our channel members here on YouTube that help keep the bills paid and keep us growing. And the 20th anniversary shirt, we already got the designs. It's about 90% complete. Sometime this week, we will be launching them. I like them. Kev likes them as well. We just needed to tweak a couple little things. So without any further ado, let's get into the show. And I know there's going to be a little bit of an emphasis on Mr. McMahon and what went down. So you are welcome to post your comments in the chat. I will share with everyone as many comments as I can. I will say this, and I've brought this up before, and it's not a matter of I told you so, because we really truly did not know until the docuseries was released. But in hindsight, I will tell you this. If you are a longtime wrestling fan, about 95% of what we watched, we already knew. All right. Yeah, it was funny with Tony Atlas, being extra animated. Listen, Netflix interviewed many other people. They found their goof, if I could say it like that. And listen, I love Tony Atlas. I'm not saying it like that. But Tony Atlas is a charismatic, funny, goofy kind of guy. And he was that person that they needed on that show. You had some others that had no business being on there. You see the footage that we saw, that docuseries. I mean, Brian Solomon and a few others said it very, very perfect. This docuseries is intended more for those that do not follow wrestling, for those that might be rather new to wrestling, those who may have only been a wrestling fan for a few years. But if you were a longtime wrestling fan already, this was kind of just like a summary of what we already knew. Some things on the documentary was exaggerated. Some things were left out that really I'm kind of surprised at. Sure, you can't cover every little thing. But, as Kevin and I were going through this docuseries, we're like, wow, this is like pretty much what we already knew. I mean, but the funny thing about it is, I've been doing this since 97. Okay. So everything that has transpired, from 1997, which is really around ECW's first pay-per-view, the Monday Night Wars really starting to get full blown. And afterwards, everything that's gone down with Vince, we covered the stuff with his sexcapades. Listen, I know Linda McMahon is sort of a victim in this. I mean, don't get me wrong. She's got tons of money and she remains married to Vince, even though they have no relationship anymore. But, back in the day, we went there. We're convinced that Linda McMahon was a little bit of a kinky type of person as well. But obviously, you're not going to do that on this documentary. This is about Vince McMahon and no one else. Him wanting to do the angle impregnating Stephanie, we beat that to death so many times. I always go back to the example. If you remember the wedding angle with Stephanie McMahon, go back and watch it. When you watch the backstage segment, and I brought this up at least 20 times over the years, when you look at the backstage segment and Vince is in his tux and Stephanie's in a white wedding dress and Vince is having a few last words for Stephanie. If you look at him, he's looking right at her chest. And she even reels his head Dad, up here. That's something that, it's nothing new, but it's titillating. And it's for those that don't know much about Vince, it's scandalous, but was the docuseries great? Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed it very much. Netflix revealed that they have 4 additional hours of interviews with Vince that did not make the docuseries. If I'm Netflix, I throw that shit up as bonus footage. I don't care if it's just rambling. Put it up as bonus footage. Do it down the line. Trust me, people will watch it. People will watch it. So Jimmy Finger says he was bored by it. No new revelations. Yeah, listen, there really wasn't much as far as revelations go, but it was still intriguing. It was still fascinating to watch. It was an acknowledgement and an exclamation point to a lot of things we already knew. I will say this though, with the documentary, I think, and I still stand by this, I think Steve Austin is the one that's probably going to get the most heat out of this documentary at all, because his views on CTE, and listen, of course, no scientific, breakthrough is going to have 100%, approval rate, or not every single person's going to be convinced. On the good side and on the bad side, there are people still to this day that believe that COVID vaccines caused, heart issues. I've had friends die at very young ages over the last couple of years who had the vaccines, and some people are convinced that the vaccines are what did them in. I've gotten 5 shots and I'm fine. This last battle of COVID kicked my ass, but I'm okay. Our bodies are not perfect. But I will say this. Once again, a lot of people got caught lying, because I look back at those videos posted by random people. We don't need to mention their names, but you know who they are. Vince, very worried about this docuseries. Vince McMahon absolutely was worried. Vince had no idea how the Janelle Grant situation was going to be discussed. We learned nothing new. There was nothing new added to it. I don't buy for 1 minute that Vince McMahon tried to buy the docuseries back. He didn't even watch it. He didn't even see it before it came out. How do you buy back something? And could you imagine if he truly would have bought that back, watched it? He would have been like, Inga, 5.5 parts of the series, everything was fine. Like, why did I buy this back? This was not a hit job. People, a hit job, this is that. It wasn't a hit job at all. Vince made his bed and Vince is sleeping in it. Vince knew the accusations. Vince knew that they were going to talk about all the scandalous stuff. He commented about all that stuff. There was no buyer's remorse. And let me tell you something. There's a few people out there right now, and I'm not going to mention their names, but they do it on Twitter to try to get millions of views for ad revenue. But this report going around that Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn are preparing a response video, like their own version of a video to offset Netflix. Trust me when I tell you, there ain't nobody in the wrestling media world that has any connection to Kevin Dunn or Vince McMahon to get that information. There is nobody in the entertainment world saying that. There's no movie production saying that. This is people just assuming or guessing that Vince has to have a response. If I'm Vince, I must have a video response. Therefore, I shall report that he has a video response. This way, when he has a video response, you see, I have sources. It's the same people that a year and a half ago told you that AEW signed a 5-year, $1.5 billion deal. These are the same people a year and a half ago that said that Raw was going back to TV 14. These are the same people right before WrestleMania that going forward, Raw is going to be attitude. And now they're the same ones that are telling you that NXT on the CW network is TV 14 because they're going more edgy and attitude. No, yesterday on the Daily News Report, I explained exactly why the CW network rated it TV 14. I'm not knocking CW or NXT. I enjoy the product. I don't need for something to be TV PG, TV 14, TVMA, TVX to enjoy it. If it's good, it's good. I've been a wrestling fan from 79. And there was many times that I enjoyed the shit out of wrestling and it was rated TV PG. So this idea that 14 resolves everything is ridiculous. Do not buy the shit that's floating around. People are just throwing stuff out there to try to just make money off of it. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. So let's get some of your feedback. And I see all the questions coming out are not McMahon. So we talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. So let's get into a few things. And I see a couple of super chats came in. We'll get into them in a moment. The franchise 01. He'd like to know, do I still think it's going to be Bloodline versus Bloodline at Survivor Series? At this point, he doesn't. I think it'll be Roman, Jimmy, Cody, and Randy Orton versus the Rogue Bloodline. That's not a bad idea. You look at Jey Uso and you start thinking to yourself, okay, they just gave him the IC title. Maybe main event Jey Uso will remain that way. I personally think, though, there is no direction for Sami Zayn. Once Sami Zayn gets through Gunther, and then what? Sammy and Jay feud for the IC title. Does anybody really want that? I think the money is Bloodline versus Bloodline. I know people are kind of tired of it. If you really look at it, some wrestlers have been married to that storyline for a couple of years now, but I think we forget it was 2 years ago last week that Sami Zayn joined the Bloodline. Look how great that was. You truly believe that if Sami joins the Bloodline again, it's going to suck? It's probably going to be freaking great. So that's not a bad idea, franchise. If WWE really, truly wanted Jay to go a certain way as a single star and remain that way for the foreseeable future, even into 2025, you can go that route. My only problem with your list is Randy Orton. I am convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, Randy Orton will never forgive Cody Rhodes for aligning himself with Roman Reigns. People are starting to replay all the shit that Roman Reigns and the Bloodline did to Randy, did to Kevin Owens in the past. And for Cody, the enemy of my enemy is my friend storyline, Randy Orton cannot accept that. We're brothers. Brothers don't do that to each other. You know, you aligned yourself with someone we could have eliminated the Bloodline. We didn't need Roman Reigns to do it. You aligned yourself with the enemy. So I don't see Randy Orton teaming up for a Survivor Series. But hey, it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea. Will Rally Sport 1, my thoughts on Dave Meltzer reporting wrong as much as he has in 2024. This weekend, he said Thunder Rosa was returning. She herself said no. Well, she said a little bit worse than that. My thoughts about it is this. Listen, a lot of dirt sheets, a lot of podcasters still know that trigger words and trigger phrases still generate lots of viewers and money. Okay, Shane McMahon bumped into the Young Bucks at an airport where they met. Trust me, one of our patrons sent us video from that airport. He was there flying home because he happened to actually be in New York visiting family for 10 days and flew home that Thursday morning and was in the same airport, 2 terminals down. And he sent us video. Now, I emailed him to ask him if we could post it. And he said he's got to check with his wife because all over the video is his wife and his daughter. And what happened was he's at the terminal. It's early in the morning. And he hears a commotion and he looks down the hall and he sees the Young Bucks. Doesn't even see Shane McMahon. He sees the Young Bucks. Like, oh, shit. He takes out his phone and he starts recording. And you hear, Dad, 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 Dad. And then the wife says, who is that? And he's like, oh, it's the Young Bucks. There's probably a bunch of AEW guys flying home as well. And as he's zooming in on the phone, you see Shane McMahon. And by the way, the photo does its justice a little bit, but if I'm allowed to show this footage, Shane McMahon lost weight. Shane McMahon looks like he dropped about 25 pounds. Shane McMahon looks like he's in tremendous shape. I will tell you, I don't think it's just the way the video was recorded, but the thing is that they were chatting, and then they basically, you see the Young Bucks with their bag, and they go one way, and Shane McMahon goes towards a different way. Were they on the same flight going afterwards? Possibly, but they were just chatting, and then you see them drift apart. But of course, people go on YouTube that it was planned meeting and this and that. Then you see what's going on with Tony Khan and Ray Phoenix, and business is business. You know, Stephanie Irwin said it so perfectly on social media this weekend. And I don't have the tweet in front of me, but Kevin and I are going to share it tomorrow. She talks about how the IWC could book, could do this, could do that, could do this. They could do everything in wrestling except enjoy a show. Just enjoy the show. And it is so spot on. And again, you know, these trigger words and bullshit still sells. And Dave Meltzer, I talked about this probably 6 months ago. The dirt sheet in general is dying. Wade Keller is dying, not health-wise, but his dirt sheet stuff is dying. Dave Meltzer's stuff is dying. A lot of the tertiary news outlets out there are dead in the water. They have to cut and paste everybody else's stuff, even if it's wrong. And some journalists out there, there's a very, very select few who still get news. Believe it or not, whether you like them or not, I subscribe to Fightful's Patreon because Fightful, for the most part, are one of the only sources left that do get legitimate sources for news. Whether you like them or not, you do your checking. But when TKO Group Holdings, Endeavor, Ari Emanuel, when they took over WWE and bought it, one of the early meetings was the staff, the wrestlers with Triple H and a bunch of others. Stop leaking our business to the IWC. If you notice, UFC, for the most part, has their gossip to a minimum. I'm not a fan of UFC. I'm not into MMA. But I do notice if you follow their sites, there is very, very few elements of fake news. They have that run as a tight ship. Do not leak our business. That's why, if you notice, people who were rumored to be leaving WWE signed contracts 6 months ago and people only finding out now, that if somebody wants to reveal it in an interview, fine. Don't leak our business to the IWC. And a lot of those journalists that depended on certain wrestlers to just DM them, oh, I saw this. Oh, I heard this. Oh, I heard people talking about this. They're now realizing they ain't working for Vince anymore. They're working for a company that doesn't have a wrestling background. So when you hear Mercedes Moné saying, oh, I left WWE because the chairman did this and the chairman did that, and I don't see myself ever going back to that. She's just doing that to pander to Tony Khan, to make Tony Khan feel like that this is Disneyland. But the WWE that she left is not the WWE that runs WWE now. Even you see Swerve. I see a super chat came in about Swerve, but if you see that controversy from the Breakfast Club stuff, and you talk about Swerve and WWE trying to find out if he was still available, you're going back 2+ years. You're going back before the company was sold to TKO Group Holdings. People still keep insisting that the management that runs WWE now is the same management board of directors that ran it before, and it's not. So a lot of places out there, they're guessing. They're using very, very, very bad sources. And if something sounds good, if it makes sense, they run with it. And unfortunately, and the worst thing about the Thunder Rosa thing is this, and I mentioned it on Kev's feed yesterday on Twitter. All you and I have to do is send a message to Thunder Rosa, email, tweet, whatever. Hey, how you feeling? How's everything with the concussion? Are you able to return to the ring yet? 9 times out of 10, she responds. Thunder Rosa is one of the most friendly, reachable persons online. And why would you just write that she's cleared to return based on the amount of time that she was out? When you see people reporting about contracts and stuff, what they do is they go back 2-3 years and they see the original story that so-and-so just signed a contract extension. And they guess it's got to be 2 years or 3 years. 2 years goes by, the person's still employed with the company. Oh, okay. He's there 3 years. So now when it gets close to 3 years, my sources tell me that so-and-so has not inked a new contract as of yet. It's not sources. That's somebody that's looking at time and thinks that they have the answer. And it's not. So you see what's going on. And all Meltzer or the Observer had to do was just send a message to Thunder Rosa. Hey, I wanted to post an update about your return to the ring. How you doing? Even if she doesn't want to tell you, it's still the friendly thing to do. Act like you give a shit. Hey, Thunder Rosa, you able to return yet? There's a lot of people asking, and, we're concerned. We hope you're feeling better. Makes it feel good instead of just posting fake news. So it sucks. It sucks to see so many people doing that. But you know what's even worse? Most of the people that report fake news leave it up there because they know they'll get more of a reaction that way. I brought it up when Alpha passed away. When Alpha passed away, some asshole on a pretty big wrestling news site posted a picture of Rikishi. And you look at the feed within 5 minutes, dude, that's not Alpha, that's Rikishi. To this day, that article is still up there. Why? Because thousands of people wrote back, bruh, that's not Alpha, that's Rikishi. Bruh, remove this. Bruh, that's terrible. Bruh. When the Wyatt Six had their first in-ring match, and I remember, I think it was Michael Cole that said, somewhere Bray Wyatt is looking down right now. Just something beautiful. Somebody went on Twitter, if you think I'm lying, go look it up. It's still there right now. Somebody wrote the reverse, that somewhere down below, Bray Wyatt is looking up and smiling. That guy's got over 1.5 million views and thousands of people telling him that's fucked up. That's not what Michael Cole said. Fix it. Delete this. It's still up there. People intentionally do this. This is the world we live in now. And unfortunately, Twitter has become the #1 source for bullshit. And that's Elon Musk. That's all on Elon Musk. But he's making money also. So when you see all these dirtbags in the wrestling world posting bullshit on Twitter, understand that not only are they making money off the bullshit, but Elon Musk is making money off of them. So unfortunately, as long as this template stays, these guys will stay in business because they could just keep doing this over and over and over again, and people will still click on it. That's why the CNBC article about AEW's TV deal that's going to be signed probably tomorrow, so many news outlets in the wrestling world ignored it because they realized that they got caught. People for the last 2-3 months have been saying the deal is signed, the deal is signed, the deal is signed, because when we look back on a year or two from now on a simple Google search, they'll see, oh, so-and-so was the first person to say it, or was one of the people just want to be on record, even if it's wrong. Because down the line, we talked about it with the other day with the first Raw of 2025. And a certain news outlet said that there's strong discussions that it's going to be in Los Angeles, California at the Amalie Arena. And this was the same source that in the middle of July said that Survivor Series, same word for word, heavily discussed, close to a deal. Survivor Series 2 weeks later was announced it's in Vancouver. So this is the world we live in. Get used to it. The only way those people stop reporting is when they get into some serious legal shit. Who's that reporter that got into it with Jericho? Nick Hausman. It's amazing how nobody cares. Like, what happened to Nick Hausman? What is he doing? Is he selling Starbucks now? The guy disappeared from the net because he got threatened with legal shit. He didn't suddenly get some major disease. Nobody did a Messiah on him, cut his fingers off, and he can't type anymore. Nick Hausman, unfortunately, kept yapping and saying some shit about Jericho. And most people out there knew. Jericho's got so much money. Jericho just calls his lawyer, say, hey, listen, just ruin this guy's life for a little while. Send him some legal letters. Force him to get a fucking lawyer. Force him to fucking hire an attorney, because you hire an attorney to defend yourself. This ain't no, well, if we win the case, I'll take 1/3 of whatever you make. I won't charge you right now. Nick Hausman had to go and get a lawyer, probably. I mean, I don't know him personally, but most likely, based on what people are saying behind the scenes, is that he got served, with some threatening legal letters. And I will tell you this, though. I looked across the court system because there are places where you pay like $5 and they check the whole United States court system. I can't find a Nick Houseman being sued civilly from anybody. So either Jericho would have filed it in Canada, which I doubt it because Jericho, I don't think, lives in Canada. And unless Nick Houseman, that's not his real name. But if you pay $5 and do a little court search, you'll find there's no civil lawsuit against any Nicholas Houseman with his date of birth in the United States. So I don't know what the fuck happened. All right. Somebody saying, did somebody say my name? Who is this? Who is this? Joe Cronin. Did somebody say your name? No. No, I'm only kidding. What's up, Joe? I haven't talked to you in a while, man. I kind of miss like your social media presence. I mean, I don't post on social media anymore. I post pictures of dogs, and that gets like 15 times like the viewers and likes than anything else. I could post logic till I'm blue in the face. I could say I'm on my deathbed, in critical condition. You could have pictures of me with fucking IVs going like this, and people be like, we all go through bad shit. But I hope you're doing good, man. I do see some of your posts from here and there. It's just that, with everything going on personally, I just find it so hard to just take a few steps back and just lurk and see what other people are doing. But I hope you're doing well, man. I will return the favor. I will definitely post on one of your upcoming episodes. So shout out to Joe Cronin, man. I enjoyed our conversation we did about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So we definitely need to do another one. Seriously. Much love, man. Much love. These good people. Very good people. Thanks, Joe. Appreciate that. Havili says, if everyone wasn't injured in the WWE before WrestleMania, I have no... Okay. You must have just typed half a sentence. Question. If everyone wasn't injured in the WWE before WrestleMania 11 besides, and then there's nothing else. I don't know what you meant. So retype it again. It probably just got cut off. AS7607, have I heard, where did it go? Oh, she deleted it. Okay. We're on a roll. Here's an interesting one. SoFly, Bill Moore. What's up, SoFly? I think of that 80s the R&B song. Wait. Ooh, so fly. Oh, I can't remember the rest of it. Can I give us a wild prediction for 10 years from now? A wild prediction from 10 years from now. Wow, that's hard to say this quickly. 10 years from now, WWE will own TNA. AEW will still be in business. Maybe merging with another company. I'm trying to think of realistic ones. I think WrestleMania 10 years from now could feature like the siblings of two wrestlers that are out right now. Who will still be wrestling 10 years from now that are veterans? I think Roman Reigns will be long retired. Randy Orton, I think, will be long retired. Cody Rhodes, I think Cody Rhodes legitimately could still be around. 10 years from now. Oh, Mercedes Moné will be back in the WWE. Absolutely. I mean, sooner than that. 10 years from now, I don't know if we want to see wrinkled Moné. It's just the way women's wrestling is, unfortunately. That's just the nature of the beast. But that's two things right off the bat. Yeah, Rhea Ripley will still be wrestling. Liv Morgan will still be wrestling. I'm talking about the older wrestlers. I think CM Punk would be pretty much retired. I tell you, it's interesting when you go back 10 years. When you go back 10 years, that's 2014. And 2014, there's still quite a few people. I'll say this. the average age of a wrestler for a pay-per-view is mid-30s, in case people didn't know that. The average age for a wrestler for quite some time now is mid-30s. So what that means is that some wrestlers very well will still be wrestling in their mid-40s, but some wrestlers who have yet to even make it even to NXT will likely be on the main event for WWE 10 years from now. You just look at that crop, but Charlotte Flair will be done. Unfortunately, R-Truth will, well, you know what? The way R-Truth is going to be like 70 and he's going to look the same, man. And the most amazing thing about R-Truth, and I say this with nothing but love, is a little growing up Don Tony story that you'll all appreciate. 2002? It was either 02 or 03. And R-Truth was wrestling in Bayside, Queens, I believe it was. I don't remember the exact location because there was so many venues we were going at that time, but if I remember correctly, it was Bayside, Queens. And it was myself, Mad Zombie, Brian Damage, and Timmy Austin, the ECW Zombie, God rest his soul. We were all standing outside the arena. And R-Truth walks outside. He was Ron Killings at the time. He's like, anybody got a Marlboro? I think he smoked Marlboro Lights at the time. It was either Marlboro or Marlboro Lights. I don't know if he still smokes, but that guy was smoking like a chimney. And this is 20 years ago. Look at the shape that guy is in. That's the thing that blows me away. I mean, unfortunately, 10 years from now, here's a wild one. You think Vince McMahon will still be alive 10 years from now? I don't think so. I think the depression and the stress that Vince is in right now, I think I'd be surprised if Vince lasts another 2-3 years. And I don't wish death on Vince. I don't know what's true and what's not. I will tell you this. I'll tell you this, and thank you, SoFly, for that. When Kevin and I talk about the Mr. McMahon docuseries tomorrow, one thing I will say that I've realized about Vince, and anybody that has ever studied like a mass murderer or somebody who was like an abuser to multiple women, even child, like teenage killers, people. One thing that I noticed that happens almost every time is the adrenaline and the excitement starts to wear off, and you need to get riskier, riskier, and riskier. You look at a movie like 50 Shades of Grey. That guy be locked in jail for, like accused of, abusing the girl. But what I'm saying is that when you are a little kinky and you get a little excited, and this is Vince in the mid-'80s, you think of Rita Chatterton. What's strange is outside of Rita Chatterton, you hear no other allegations from 1984, 5, whatever that time frame it was, to like the 90s. And as you hear more and more about Vince, and then they did Mr. McMahon on the cameras and the stuff that he was doing, even in front of his wife with Trish Stratus. And even people forget the storyline with Linda McMahon and Eric Bischoff is looking at her chest and Eric Bischoff teasing. Of course, it was just storyline, but it was just weird stuff like, why am I watching this on my screen? How does this benefit either one of the characters? I think as Vince got older, he had to get more and more perverse for that excitement and adrenaline rush. And I think he found it in Janelle Grant. That's one of the reasons why I don't know how much of it is criminal or how much of it is just a bunch of very, very kinky, perverse people out there. You look at like some of the mass murderers. What do you hear? They start off with abusing an animal. Then they unfortunately will take out a cat or a dog. And I don't mean take them out for a walk. You know what I'm talking about. Then it leads to something else. And then the excitement of what is it like to take out a human? There's an escalation. And I think with Vince, there was an escalation there. But, he's got so much money. Why would you do criminal activity, with that kind of money? There's always, I brought this up even when I was doing stuff, back in the day on the indies. I never got lucky like that. But I watched the ugliest of the ugly in the wrestling world have all of these, I know it's unpopular to say in 2024, but have all these ring rats waiting for them. Fucking Bill Alfonso had women waiting. If you watch some of the shoot interviews, some actually have talked about it. I've seen with my own eyes, like people that you would never think would even be able to get a look at a girl, and they have people waiting for them. Now imagine somebody with billions of dollars. You think of Anna Nicole Smith, you think of others out there. There is that possibility that people are looking for the sugar daddies to make the crazy money, to live that crazy lifestyle. And when they get burned, they take it as an emotional hit, and then they feel that they were used and abused. And that's why I don't know what is the truth with the Vince Janelle Grant thing. I don't know if he criminally abused her. I don't know if he just, told her everything she wanted to hear, and then it turned out to be lies. Does that make a criminal? Does that make him an asshole? I used to bring this up when I used to go to clubs in the late 80s and early 90s. One of the funniest stories I've told 1,000 times on the shows is I remember a guy that we used to know, and we would go to the G Club out in Long Island on Garden City, the Garden City Hotel, the G Club. If anybody wants to look it up, it's been closed for probably 2 decades, but there's tribute pages online. He used to go in there, and he used to have all these fake business cards saying that he was, that he handled models. And he would see a really hot girl and be like, hey, if you're ever interested in doing a photo shoot, you can make some great money. And he would hook up with women, and he would promise them this, and that. And then 2-3 weeks later, he'll be in the club, slap. You lied to me. You told me you were this, and you weren't. Is that criminal? Or you just sweet talked yourself into getting a piece of ass? Is that criminal? Is that wrong? Of course it's wrong. When people say, oh, I have all this money, I have this and that, come home with me and I'll give you this and I'll shower you this and I'll take care of this and I'll leave my wife for you and I'll do this and I'll do that. And then you find out that that person was just telling you what you wanted to hear so that person could get laid. Is that criminal? To me, no, that's an asshole. You look at Joey Ryan. Oh, I'm depressed. You're depressed. Oh, we're both depressed. Let's make out. I don't know if Joey Ryan was a criminal. I think Joey Ryan was a pig. I don't know if he should have, if it's criminal. To me, he looks like the snake in the grass from 20, 30 years ago that would be in a club and say, hey, why don't you come back to my house? I got a vet. And meanwhile, they got a Chevy Chevette, not a Corvette. And we'll take a ride in my vet. Some people will just say what they want to say. Even bookers. Oh my God, come home with me. I'll make you champion. And then 2 months later, I thought you were going to make me champion. Oh, we got to do a storyline. We got to progress. Another 2 months go by. What's going on? Then you realize this motherfucker made me sleep with him and he lied to me. Is that criminal? No, it's an asshole. So I don't know how much of what Vince did is criminal, how much of it is sugar daddy, So Rick will be gone 10 years from now, unfortunately. It's going to be interesting. I may be gone. Yeah, there's a wild prediction. Don Tony will be dead within 10 years. I hope to live to 90. Tristan wants to know what do I think of the Vince McMahon, Donald Trump Battle of the Billionaires storyline. I thought it was okay. I remember when the money came dropping down. You know, I remember when the stock market actually thought that Donald Trump was buying Monday Night Raw. And then they had to make the clarification. You know, it's interesting to make stupid blunders like that, but I didn't have a problem with it. You know, listen, Donald Trump, everybody's got a different viewpoint on him. I prefer to just stay neutral these days, but, you know, as far as a wrestling fan goes, I thought it was okay. I thought it was fine. All right, let's get into a couple other super shout outs. Some people were waiting patiently. Big Sal. Oh, wait a minute. These are old. Oh my God, that's from like last year old. Sorry, Big Sal. We'll have to get back to you. Big Daddy. I'd love to hear my reaction towards Swerve accusing WWE of being racist and his remark, they only complain when a black person gets paid. Only the white guys get asked this question. Listen, I'm going to say this as best as I could. Any of you out there that's been under a rock the last couple of days, Swerve Strickland went on a podcast called The Breakfast Club. The podcast is intended, their target is a black audience, okay? Just saying it like it is. He made some very wild accusations on that show. He also inadvertently admitted that WWE never tampered with it, tried to contract tamper with him. He said that 2 years ago, WWE asked his agent if Swerve was available. It's not contract tampering. Asking if someone, you know, has how much time they have left in their contract or if they're going to be available soon is an inquiry. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. But he also made some really crazy claims towards WWE. And his remark that's getting the most attention that Big Daddy wrote is, they only complain when a black person gets paid. The best way I could answer this in the most neutral way is this. First of all, if it was 2022, it was before the sale. So if you're going to accuse, this is one thing I wish would change in wrestling. And unfortunately, podcasts are never going to go this far because they want the interviews. You will never see a Busted Open do this. You'll never see a Breakfast Club do this. You'll never see a Peter Rosenberg do this. By the way, did you all see that god-awful performance by Peter Rosenberg with Liv Morgan? I'm going to play a clip tomorrow on the show. He actually asked Liv Morgan, there are people that think that you were out of bounds for getting involved with Dominic, who was in a relation with Rhea Ripley. That is exactly what Kevin and I have been talking about with Peter Rosenberg and Busted Open. That is what they are. They do interviews as if this stuff is real. That's why they get play and press in WWE. That's why they have, listen, good for them, but I can never do that. Can never look at somebody and say, Hangman, has the police investigated you for burning down Swerve's house? Seriously, just behead me if I ever do something like that. Unless we're just goofing and laughing. Here's a challenge to the wrestlers that will never do it. And here's a challenge to the podcasters out there that will never have the balls to do it. But the next time a Swerve says the WWE will only complain when the black person gets paid, or if the Milk Club that features all white people interviews somebody who's white and they say they only complain when the white person gets paid. I don't care whether you're black, white, straight, gay, gray, orange. 3 heads, 2 heads, 15 toes, your mother and your father are brother and sister. I don't care who you are. The next time somebody says they, ask Swerve, who's they? Can you be a little bit more specific? You're labeling WWE as a whole. Who in the WWE would say something like that? Oh, I can't say. Well, why not? You're making that outrageous claim. WWE is not a human being. WWE is WWE is the only outlet that I could say truly can identify themselves as they. There's no him or her. Ask them, who are you talking about? That is, to me, that is the pussy way out for anybody, whether you're talking about black or you're talking about white, you're talking about AEW, WWE, MLW, TNA. I don't care. When they say they, or you use the letters, that's a cop-out. If you're going to have the balls to accuse a company of being racist, then have the balls to say who within that company is or was that had a viewpoint like that. Because when you can't, I don't believe you. I'm sure Swerve and others who are black feel that they were misused and mistreated and maybe not paid accordingly. And I believe that's a fact. But when you take it a step above, did anybody think 3 years ago that Swerve would be on this level as world heavyweight champion? With all due respect, 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago, when he was in NXT, I remember people saying, wow, he's the best one of the group. But I don't remember any of you motherfuckers, and I know I didn't say it either. Oh, that guy one day is going to be world heavyweight champion. That guy's going to be the head of WWE. Just didn't see it. There's a lot of people in WWE right now I don't see will ever be world heavyweight champion, from Austin Theory to LA Knight to others. It's not just somebody who's black. I don't look at people based on skin color. I look on the perception. I look at others. I think Trick Williams is absolutely going to be WWE world heavyweight champion. To me, he just has that little bit extra. I just feel when people want to go that deep and accuse that hard, have the balls to name names. Because when you just use letters, there's hundreds of people that work for that company. When you use letters, that's kind of a bullshit thing. And for all you know, it could be one person out of 300 that feel that way. So I hate when people do that. I hate it. And I hate it more when it's wrestlers that I like. Because I'm a big fan of Swerve. I love Nana to death. Nana is one of the most genuinely good-hearted, nice people out there that deserves every bit of success that he's getting right now. And you could celebrate your culture. You could celebrate, the progress. But to turn around and take a move like that, you don't name names. To me, I think that's Bush League. I don't care which side you're on. Jimmy James sends in this 5 spot. Bed, wed, and dead. That's the, I guess, the equivalent of FMK, which, we try not to use on these shows for rated purposes. Bed, wed, or dead. Lola Vice, Liv Morgan, Stephanie Urban. Well, unfortunately, because I'm into brunettes for the most part, not blondes, I probably would have to say Liv, bye-bye. I would have to say Liv, bye-bye. Would you rather bed Lola Vice or Stephanie Irwin, or would you rather marry? Believe it or not, I think I would bed Lola Vice. I would marry Stephanie Irwin. Irwin is Irwin or Shyster. Irvin. I would marry Stephanie Urban. I love her personality. I love how she uses logic and common sense on social media. And because she's so well-liked, people actually do listen to what she says. Doesn't mean that Lola Vice and Liv Morgan aren't intelligent as well, but yeah, I would go bed Lola Vice, wed Stephanie Irwin, dead Liv Morgan. We don't mean dead, literally. So, Steve Joseph, my thoughts on Mayor Eric Adams. The first mayor in New York history to be indicted and charged with crimes. I'll be honest with you. My dad voted for him. My dad actually, you've seen the pictures. My dad, went to dinners and took pictures with him and got a chance to talk to him a little bit. I think he's shady. I always felt he was shady because here's the thing. I don't want to get political on this show, but when we talk about illegal immigration, you come into this country without going through the proper channels and the right paperwork, you're in illegally. If I drive in a car and I provide you no paperwork or a fake driver's license, that means I'm driving illegally. If I walk into an airport and I don't have real ID, or I went to a mall and got fake ID, I'm in the airport illegally. So if I'm from a different country and I enter this country and I don't go through the right channels and I have no paperwork or I provide fake paperwork, I'm in this country illegally. Why I think he is shady is because on one side of his mouth, he keeps telling everybody publicly that the immigration problem in New York is out of control and we can't afford this and we're having all this crime and all this expense. But on the other side of his mouth, free phones, free lodging, free this, free clothes, free EBT cards, free this, free that. Trust me, I do car insurance. I've had a few people who are in this country illegally call me up and say, how much is it to get car insurance? And then the first thing I ask them is their driver's license number and their social security number. They don't have a social security number because they're not in this country legally. Do you have a temporary visitor ID number? No, I do not. So how do you get the quote? You get them to assign risk, $8,000 a year. Click. And people have told me. One guy, I started telling him it's about $8,000 a year. And he says, all right. He says, how much do I have to come up with? I said, well, I got to run some additional reports. He gave me an address. And when I ran the address to the computer, it was for a fucking hotel. So I called him back and I said, listen, I just want to verify the address. And he gave me the address and I said, all right, are you staying at a hotel right now? He's like, yeah. He says, they have me in this hotel. I've been here for the last 3 months. And, I don't get too personal, but, you got one side of your mouth saying that it's ruining New York. And then the other side, everybody's got all this free shit. So I don't believe him at all. I don't believe him at all. I don't trust our government at all. I don't care if it's Biden. I don't care if it's Trump. I don't care if it's Kamala. I don't care if it's fucking J.D. Vance, Santa Claus. I don't care if it's The Rock, Oprah, Eric. I don't care who it is. I don't trust anybody. So I think he's shady. Jimmy Fingers, thank you for your generosity, my friend. He sent in a 20 spot and said, my takeaway, DT, is this. And this does not excuse any of Vince's demented behavior. One, he had a really twisted upbringing full of emotional damage and neglect. Two, he was the greatest wrestling promoter who ever lived. I agree with both your comments. Just because, put it this way, I listen, I have publicly admitted this. I grew up in a very, very strict household, right? My dad was old school. My dad is Italian. I got hit with the belt. I got hit with the hanger. I got whipped. You saw Goodfellas, the beginning of the show. You haven't been to school in months. And that happened in my house. Later on, when I turned about maybe 17, my father apologized to me. My father said, listen, one day you may have kids. Please do not put a hand on your kids like I did to you and your brother. I won't say my brother's name. I said, no, Dad, it's okay. And he's like, no, you don't understand. He says, that's all I knew because my grandfather did it to my father. Now, I have never had kids. I've had pets. I've never had the urge to raise my hands. Even when my wife gets me pissed the fuck off, never get the urge to raise my hands. Whether my father would have apologized or not, it never continued with me. I have no violent, aspect of me. In the past, I'd be a dick online with my mouth. I'd be an asshole with my mouth. But, I don't buy I was brought up a certain way, because trust me when I tell you, there is a shitload of people out there that were misused and abused growing up and turned out to be just fine. So Vince being abused growing up, even if Vince was, assaulted growing up, that doesn't give you, the excuse to do it to others. If anything, you should learn that I'm not going to repeat what my father did to me, because what my father did to me was wrong. So because I know it's wrong, it's kind of like when you learn about history. When you remember several years ago, they tried to erase aspects of history, removing statues and removing this and removing that. And I always felt that you do not erase history, because if we never knew about Harriet Tubman, if we never knew about Rosa Parks, if we never knew about Martin Luther King Jr., what happened to him, if we never knew about what people would do simply because you went to a school or you went to the same store or used the same bathroom, if you never knew that, you could never understand, wow, that's so fucking awful. I would never ever think about doing that to somebody else. When you hear outrageous stuff, you learn from it. You try to comprehend, why did it get to that point? Why was it so normal to own slaves 300 years ago, 400 years ago? Why did everybody just accept that? And you try to understand it, but you learn from it. You try to be a better person. Anytime you watch a movie where somebody does some bad stuff and somebody overcomes, why do you think the movie, look at every BET movie that's ever existed. The woman is, in an office. The woman goes to a party, meets a man. All of a sudden, they start this relationship, and suddenly the man gets really abusive. And for the second half of the movie, all her friends, girl, you need to get away from him. Girl, he's ruining you. No, I love him. He doesn't mean it like that. He's just, and the movie keeps it like a Medea movie. And then at the end, the girl overtakes and gets rid of the man and insults the man, and the man gets done. And Medea's like, you did a great job. If we didn't know anything about the man being a dick, she wouldn't be a hero. That's why I never ever liked trying to erase history. Because when there's bad people, there's good people. And if you take away the bad people, why are these other people so good? So for Vince, just because he was mistreated, even more of a reason that he should have done better. Vince, towards the end of that documentary, was talking about sex. He told the guy on Netflix, right now, he wouldn't mind getting his knob wet. Didn't say it like that, but you know what I'm talking about. This is somebody 76 years old, because that was recorded a year and a half ago. 76 years old. He's sitting in a ring being interviewed, and all he keeps thinking about is, man. And the funny thing is, I wonder if he was still with her, or he was with somebody else, and he's thinking about getting laid. This is somebody that had a sex addiction. This is somebody that was just very, very kinky. Turned him on. Why do you think some couples watch X-rated movies while they're getting into it? Because it stimulates and enhances. Why do some people use toys? Because it gives that extra bit of excitement. So Vince, as you get older, especially that he did roids, and who knows, Viagra that he could be on, and he could be on other stuff and everything. And this guy is an addict. It's just, he's an addict. To me, what I get from this is that Vince McMahon is obsessed with power and obsessed with sex. Neither are criminal, but we talked about the FBI investigation many times, so we kind of know where that's going. So thank you, Jimmy. Thank you for that. Tyrese, is it cool that SummerSlam, excuse me, SS could be a few things. Could be a Superstorm. Is it cool that the Superstorm is coming to my state in 2025? Bunker down now. Is it cool that SummerSlam is coming to your state, Jersey, in 2025? That's awesome. It's going to be great. It's going to be 2 nights. It is kind of WrestleMania light, and I brought this up a few days ago. I think, remember this, SummerSlam will be the test for Royal Rumble 2026. I believe that. If SummerSlam for 2 nights in Jersey is a huge moneymaker, a huge success, Royal Rumble will become 2 nights. You'll have the women's Royal Rumble match on one night, the men's Royal Rumble match on another night. Each match runs over an hour. That's a lot to digest in one night. So believe me when I tell you, and you think about it, WrestleMania is usually April. SummerSlam is August. Just think about this. This is WrestleMania. May, June, July, August. It's only 4 months difference. So now you think of Royal Rumble, January, February, March, April, 3 months. And if they do it in late April, like they're doing WrestleMania next year, that's almost 4 months. The time difference from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania is slightly less, but close to WrestleMania and SummerSlam. So I think this could be the beginning of something bigger. Is it overkill? No, because if you have strong enough talent and you could put that many matches together, yeah, you could get people coming in for one of the 2 nights. You know, the problem is that, you know, the chances of Roman wrestling on 2 nights back to back is slim to none. So you're going to have 2 totally different nights. But, you know, when you look at it, there's enough talent that you can get 2 nights out of it. And listen, you look at NXT, you think a year from now, there's at least a half a dozen people on NXT that could be on the main roster a year from now. You go from Trick Williams to Julia to Roxanne Perez, Stephanie Vacor, you know, down the line, and you think of others. That's quite a few people. I mean, there's a lot of people that we're not even mentioning, and they get added. So it's very cool, and I'm going to do whatever I can to go to at least one of those 2 nights. I even joked a couple of days ago, maybe I could talk to Kev about doing a little get-together, because this building is only about 30 minutes from my house. So very cool. Very, very cool. Bobby Mean says that he noticed that WWE doesn't have a premium live event in December. Yeah, but January 6th, I believe, is the first Raw on Netflix. Is it either January 4th or January 6th? I'll look at it right now. I think it's January 6th. It is, yeah, January 6th. Yeah, they make, you know what? They probably don't need a premium live event in December. You know why? I brought it up yesterday. I think it was yesterday's update. They're doing 8 shows in 4 days. 8 shows in 4 days. They're doing the last week in December, they're doing 8 shows in 4 days. They're doing so many holiday shows. They probably don't need a premium live event in December. Plus, you got to remember, too, with the move to Netflix, there's a lot of logistics that have to go down, and there's a lot of, you know, semantics. And remember, Netflix is not getting just Raw. That's the biggest misconception that a lot of people have, that Netflix is just getting Raw. They're getting more than just Raw. So, you know, that could be the reason why. maybe something is added, but you look at Saturday night's main event, you look at the holiday tour, they're going to be doing so many events. Plus, they want their families to be home, the wrestlers to be home with their families. Survivor Series is the end of November. So if they do a pay-per-view in early January, I don't know. But right now, they do not have one in December. And I don't think that's a big deal because they're going to be making a crazy amount of money the last week in December, especially that it's right after the Christmas holiday. Puffy89, thank you for the 5 spot. Do I think Vince still watches the product still without being involved? Yeah. I think he does. Wrestling is his life. Wrestling is his life. And I think he's very curious to see how the company is run. He's curious to see the decision-making of some wrestlers. I don't think he watches on a regular basis, but I think he does tune in from time to time. Plus, you got to remember, too, there's got to be. It's not just Cena, Undertaker, Steve Austin. There's got to be some wrestlers on the main roster right now. I'm not insinuating Orton or anybody like that. There's got to be wrestlers on the main roster now that were close to Vince, that still pick Vince's brain. But it's kind of like, hey, I just can't, I don't want anybody to know that we're talking because I don't want to get heat. I compare it to Fabulous Moolah. Okay, here's a little tidbit for some of you out there. Fabulous Moolah was banned, so to speak, in WWE's current, discussion and celebration because of what came out from Dark Side of the Ring. They were going to do the Moolah Classic, whatever it was, and didn't like a sponsor. They almost pulled out, like Nestle or somebody almost pulled out because they absolutely refused to be involved with anything that had Moolah's name on it. And WWE ended up making a Mae Young Classic. But believe me when I tell you, WWE adored Fabulous Moolah. Wrestlers adored Fabulous Moolah. Hall of Famers today, older women that were in wrestling, they adored Fabulous Moolah. What Fabulous Moolah did in the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, I don't know. I wasn't there. I hear the accusations. Women's wrestling was not what it is now. And if you wanted to be part of the game, well, I kind of take 75% of your pay. You do what I say. You don't like it, then good luck finding a job. Wow, that's fucked up. Well, you know what? That's what it was. It wasn't just women's wrestling. It was women in a lot of lines of work. Fabulous Moolah, at that time, that's what she was doing. It's still fucked up. But in 2024, she is such a horrible person. Or even 5 years ago, she's such a horrendous, horrible person that we can't even mention her name anymore. She is still beloved in wrestling. But people realize, can't say it publicly because there'll be a ton of people waiting to rip my ass apart. So I'll just love her quietly. Stephanie McMahon and that family still look at her as great grandma. They love her. Trust me. I have friends that are in wrestling that I still talk to, and Kev will vouch for me as well, that absolutely adored Fabulous Moolah. And they said, she's somebody that you have to keep on the hush-hush. You could love her quietly. Can't say anything public because it's just because there's a public outcry doesn't mean that people change decades of love for someone simply because it's an unpopular take in this era. So Vince, he's got to have wrestlers today that appreciated him, that gave him his opportunity, Some people here and there, like a Mark Henry or someone else, will say something, but I think deep down inside, some wrestlers that still wrestle today, still drop him a text. Hey, how you doing? Seeing how he's doing, maybe even ask him, what do you think about this? You think I should change this? This isn't that if you talk to him, you're fired. It's not. Remember, you're still innocent until proven guilty. We don't know what Vince did that was illegal. Just because the lawyers and Janelle Grant said something, I'm not accusing them of lying, but there's multiple sides to every story. And just like I said earlier about guys just saying what a girl wants to hear so they can get laid, something that's been going on for hundreds of years. Is that criminal? Is someone realizing that they were played the whole time? Is that criminal? Or is that just someone who is a dirtbag? I wouldn't want Vince as my father. I wouldn't want Vince as my lover. I wouldn't want Vince as my uncle. We don't know what he did that was criminal. We don't know what he did that was perverse. Just because someone is a perv and is kinky and just does some wild, crazy things. Listen, I'm sure some of you out there have gone on Pornhub. We've all at some point went on there for whatever reason. Trust me, there's videos on there where people like to get urinated on. There's videos on there where people like to get whipped and abused and just tortured. And it's exciting. Me, I'm like, I can never see that. I can never see myself enjoying any of that. But there's people out there that get turned on by that. I brought up the XPW stuff. I don't want to bring up the whole thing again, but when I started working for XPW 2002, never forget it. I went to Slash's house and he says, hey, I got a box of videos for you. And I thought they were XPW videos to just get a little catch up on what I was going to be involved in. They were all X-rated movies. And he's like, yeah, you want to see what some of the girls are doing? And, without naming any names, well, I'll name one, Veronica Kane. And I've said this before. She was one of the nicest people I've ever come across in wrestling. I remember her after the shows in sweatpants, hanging out, listening to a Walkman, laughing, joking, just very, very quiet, funny. Then you watch these videos and you're like, holy shit, and people were into that. So I don't know. I'm still convinced the pooping thing was an accident. I'm still convinced it was an accident. That's just too out there. It's just too out there. Especially, Kev brought up a point last week that you have to take into account. The one thing that every wrestler for 30, 40 years has said about Vince, that Vince is a germaphobe. Vince is a germaphobe. He thinks farting noises are funny. But he's a germaphobe. Obsessed with germs. You remember the hand sanitizer bottle when they did the match in WWE headquarters during COVID? Remember the hand sanitizer bottle? That was an emphasis of him being a germaphobe. That in itself makes me think there's no way you're that obsessed as a germaphobe and then do something like that. I just can't picture it. Can't picture it. So. No recent photos of Janelle Grant. No recent photos of Janelle Grant. Richard Jr. What's up, Richard? Who will win in a match? Who will win the match on Raw? Xavier Woods or Rey Mysterio? Make my predictions for Raw. Okay. I think Kofi Kingston needs to beat Chad Gable. I think Xavier Woods loses by disqualification. I don't see Xavier Woods winning. Even if Xavier Woods cheats, I could see where he just starts beating the shit out of Ray and the referee calls for the bell and Xavier Woods goes a little bit overboard, or maybe Xavier Woods loses. I can't see Xavier Woods winning. Battle of the Monsters, I'm still surprised that Strowman and Bronson Reed are not on Bad Blood. If there was ever a match that would be perfect for Bad, I mean, you don't want to take away from Hell in a Cell, obviously. So, you don't want to have Hell in a Cell and a chaotic match like that. But if I'm WWE, and I'm not saying that this is the outcome tomorrow, but if I'm WWE, you do a crazy spot where Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed are both counted out. No need to end this story yet. It's so good. I mean, it's like Melo and Andrade. When Melo and Andrade started their matches, there was never a best of 7 planned. They had one match, and people were raving about it. They had another match, and it was even better. And WWE's like, okay, let's do a third. And then I think Andrade may have had the upper hand 2 out of 3. I'm thinking he had the upper hand. And then WWE's like, you know what? Let's keep it going. And they did a little diversion by having Andrade lose to LA Knight and then Melo rubbing it into Andrade's face. And then they brawled, and the brawl in the back was intense and everybody loved it. So it led to more matches. So it just ended up that way. I don't think there's any reason to end Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed right now. I don't think there's any reason to end that. So I'd rather it go to a no contest. Both couldn't answer the count of 10. That's what I would take. That's what I would do. And I'm going to stick with that, even though it's probably wrong. Mr. Webb. Hey, Mr. Webb. I think of anybody with a Mr. and a W, especially with 4 letters, I think of Caddyshack. Mr. Wong. Mr. Wong. Remember with Rodney Dangerfield with the Japanese tourist? They had to actually edit part of that on TV when it aired on regular TV in 1981, 82. I have the video from TV that the way they worded it, they kind of had to like edit part of it out. What's my take on Steve Austin's comment on CTE? My takeaway from the Vince documentary is that I think Steve Austin will get the most heat out of it amongst wrestling fans. Because for a majority of wrestling fans, we already knew Vince was a perv. We already knew Vince was a sex addict. We already knew what the allegations were with Janelle Grant. Nothing new was revealed. So you pretty much were given a refresher of what Vince was all about. I think Steve Austin ends up with the worst damage coming out of this documentary because CTE has been proven and brain and head injuries have been proven. It is documented what happens when you get hit in the head with a chair, playing football, you hit your head on the floor, anything. You fall off a bike, you get into a car accident, your head hits the steering wheel. CTE, brain injuries, are a real thing. And for Steve Austin to have that take, he has every right to his opinion. But when he just writes it off that he doesn't believe in CTE, I was hoping that Austin would have had the original Austin 316 shirt on, or maybe the Fuck Fear. Remember that Fuck Fear shirt he had? If it would have been an interview from 15 years ago, all right, then I maybe would have said, you know what, 15 years ago, there was still a lot of doubts and this and that. But to say this now after all these years gone by, like what most people are saying about Steve Austin right now is that's a good example of CTE. the way Steve Austin is answering questions right now, he's the one with the brain injuries. He's the one that's fucked up. I think Steve Austin, and yes, Steve Austin obviously has skeletons. He still has me banned. He will never forgive my friendship with his ex, Tess Broussard. He'll never forgive that. That is wild in itself. Most of you, I'm sure, know about my history with his ex-girlfriend, right? Some of you don't know. I'll tell you quickly, for those that don't know, I became friends with his ex-girlfriend back in 2003. I think it's 2003. It was either 03 or 04. It was the same year that he left WWE and he had the incident with Deborah. It was 03 or 04. I interviewed her and she made some wild accusations towards Steve Austin in an interview. And me, I'm, especially 20 some odd years ago, I'm not an interviewer. So I'm talking to her just like casual conversation, and she's making crazy claims. Well, I don't even want to say what they are, but I was like, wow, that's fucked up. Wow, what a dirtbag. Wow, what an asshole. Like, this interview got crazy press at that time. Then I became friends with her, and we talked for years after that. There was a couple of times that I almost flew to California where she lived, but it never, I'm not saying like I was going to hook up, but, we became friendly. I mean, we talked for years after that. She was very upset that no one would let her tell her story because she was accusing Steve Austin of stuff as well. But some of the stuff that she said about him with the computer was, I in hindsight, I don't believe some of it because I just can't picture Steve Austin on a computer. Like, I just can't picture it. But when I put that public, immediately got threatened. And, I just, my view on Steve Austin has changed. I want to make that clear. I don't think Steve Austin is an abuser. He might have had a couple of dark moments decades ago, but I truly believe Steve Austin has grown and has, there's no evidence. Not everybody's a perfect person. Some people do some terrible things and they learn from it and they grow from it. And, I really feel that way about him. The CTE thing, though, is pretty crazy, man. But to this day, if you Google it, you'll find it. To this day, I still get people asking me, can I repost your interview? Could you send it to me and I repost it? And I'm like, why? It's 22 years old. Yeah, but you know what? There's things in it. I'm like, I know why you want to post it, because you want to accuse Steve Austin of saying some really vile things to, we'll leave it at that. We're not going to go there. I don't know why he has that take about CTE. I don't know, But I honestly think Steve Austin, listen, he has a right to his opinion. I don't dislike Steve Austin anymore. I don't hate him. I don't think Steve Austin is, a terrible person. His view on CTE, though, is not going to be accepted by a majority of people out there, especially people who have dealt with, family members and friends who have had brain injuries. So I think he gets the most collateral damage out of this. I really do. Amongst the wrestling world. I got to make that clear. Gruss is asking, how will people talk about Hulk Hogan after he passes away? Greatest wrestling entertainer of all time that should have been much more beloved, but had a lot of issues personally. It goes to show you that superheroes in real life could be assholes. That's how I look at it. Hulk Hogan, I think, is, and I mean this when I say this, because I was a Hulkamaniac growing up. My grandmother died the biggest Hulk Hogan fan. And the amount of happiness that Hulkamania gave my grandmother is the only reason why I don't totally shit on Hulk Hogan, to this day. But I grew up a Hulkamaniac, and Hulk Hogan should be revered in wrestling as the living icon legend, the biggest entertainer in wrestling of all time. But unfortunately, it is not celebrated because of his actions in real life. When his son had that car accident, I get it. You love your son. You want to help your son. You want to, just get him through this darkest time of his life. But when you say it was God's will, and here's a guy, military that becomes a vegetable, and he says it's God's will, that's what you think. Like, I got to say something, brother, to make my son feel better, brother. I get it. Nick, it was God's will, brother. Like, he's stupid. He's stupid. He said the thing about, Brooke Hogan's musical agent or whatever, said the N-word. And yes, a lot of people who are black stuck up for him. But I can't help but think, how many times you say the N-word where there was no cameras recording? And he never publicly humiliated himself. And what I mean by that is, I think the one thing that most people wanted was Hulk Hogan to do some speaking engagements in schools, try to be a better person, have people of color confront him publicly and say, listen, there's no excuse for that. That is unacceptable. Is that, you're right, brother. He never did that. He only surrounded himself with people that he knew would make him feel better. And when he cried on camera, some of us gave him the benefit of the doubt that he wanted a second chance. And then we realized quickly that he was crying on camera because he lost all his opportunities. And do I think Hulk Hogan is a racist? No, I don't. I think Hulk Hogan got too comfortable saying words that he had no business saying because he was around people that said it also. But unfortunately, he never repented for it. And just because you don't get caught anymore saying it, brother, doesn't mean that you've repented for it. So I think Hulk Hogan should be revered today, but he's not because of some of his actions. Look, you love Trump, you want to vote for Trump, you support Trump, that's fine. But when you act drunk in a bar and you're saying some stupid shit about Kamala Harris, which I don't like her either. I don't like anybody running for office. But when you say the stupid shit like, did you say, and you're like, I guess that's going to get me in trouble, brother. You kind of say to yourself, yeah, this guy is a dick in real life. So Hulk Hogan is a superhero. It proves that superheroes can be assholes too. That's unfortunately how I feel about Hulk Hogan. And unfortunately, what I say and what you say matters nothing to Hulk Hogan. He is the biggest wrestling personality of all time. There is no question. Without Hulk Hogan, you would not be able to progress the way you did to today. It would have been much different. There would have been no rock and wrestling. There would have been no larger than life. There would have been no, acceptance in Hollywood like it is now. And a good example of it is nobody came after him. Dwayne Johnson and Steve Austin did not fit the mold of the superhero that little kids could grow up to. And don't say John Cena, because John Cena, you're talking about 20 years later. Nobody at that time, you can't say Dusty, you can't say Sting. There was nobody at that time that could have been the larger-than-life superhero, widespread, publicly loved in Hollywood, in sports, in this, in that. Nobody. Bruno had an insane amount of love and respect outside of wrestling. but Bruno was not this larger-than-life superhero movie star, just like specimen. He was an Italian guy, who wrestled, who was clean and had a great story behind him, lived the American dream, came from nothing. But there was, tons of other people that were like that as well. You look at Rocky Marciano, you look at others growing up. They didn't get to the next level. Ralph Ramirez. And Ralph, thank you again, brother. Thank you again. Thank you for that video. That still, to this day, I'm so grateful. It made me feel so good because you have no idea how many times over the years I would always have some people be like, oh, you're full of shit. That's not true. You didn't really do that. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. And I always heard that video existed and I never saw it. Ralph Ramirez says he's seen a shoot with New Jack where he claims Balls Mahoney and a rat in a hotel sucking blood while Balls was in USA Pro Wrestling. Do I know the story? Do I know the story? I paid for the fucking room. If you think that I'm lying, go to Mass Maniac's Twitter account tonight, Mass Maniac XXX. See if I'm lying. This is the true story. This is the true story. This was 2008. I think it was 2008. I was doing shows with Frank Goodman. It wasn't USA Pro Wrestling, it was UXW. USA Pro Wrestling became UXW. And what happened was I was doing the bus trips out in Long Island. And at that time, I was doing the cannoli stuff as well. This might even be I don't know if it was the Chris Candido Memorial Show, the second annual. No, wait. Yeah, I think it was the second annual Chris Candido Memorial Show. Might have been that show. Balls Mahoney was on it. And Balls Mahoney some of you may remember this. In fact, I know I have the footage in my computer here, but I'm not going to look for it now. Balls Mahoney threw a fireball in low-life Louis Ramos's face. I was at ringside at the time. And after Balls Mahoney threw the fireball in Louis' face, I showed up at ringside with a microphone, and I did the whole Disney World thing that you do after the Super Bowl. Hey, Brett Favre. And I always say him because you know what's in the news. I hope he's okay. Brett Favre, you just won the Super Bowl. What are you going to do next? I'm going to Disney World. So I went up to Louis and I did the whole Disney World thing. I'm like, Louis, you just got a fireball in your face and you lost. What are you going to do next? And he chair bashed me and I fell on the floor, broke my watch, and everybody was laughing. Balls Mahoney got stuck in Long Island and needed to get a room. So this was Hempstead Turnpike. I don't remember the name of the arena, but there's a hotel that was like 2-3 blocks away. So Mass Maniac says, can you get Balls a room? I'm like, yeah, I could look into it because I've gotten rooms in Long Island in the past for wrestlers. I got one for Shark Boy a few times. I got one for Daphne when she would stay. Nobody crashed at my house, contrary to what some people believe. But so I called the hotel and they had a couple of rooms. I got one for Balls. I think I got one for Axel as well at night. But the next day, I get a phone call that, there's a problem. And I said, what's the problem? And they said that the room was trashed. And I said, listen, I just booked the room. This was the wrestling show, and I just booked the room with my card and everything. What happened was Balls Mahoney, after the show was over, was with his girl. And they were into some wild, weird shit. And Balls Mahoney bladed. And he started bleeding, and they started wiping blood on the walls. And I don't think they were drinking each other's blood, but they partied in the hotel room, just the two of them, and they wiped blood all over the sheets, all over the walls. There was blood everywhere. It looked like a crime scene. And I called up the Masked Maniac. I'm like, Frank, they want me to pay like $600 for this room. I can't pay for this room. All I did was book it. And he calls up Balls, and he's like, John, because that's his real name. He says, John, what did you do tonight? Oh, I don't know. I was wasted, this and that. Blah, blah, blah. And I cared about Balls Mahoney. Balls Mahoney was good people. Loved Balls Mahoney, loved Johnny Candido, loved Axel Rotten. But Balls Mahoney, you know, if you know all the story about going to the mosh pit with Balls and him cutting that promo, you know, totally coked out of his mind. You've heard the promo with the Black Hearts. We're like, Balls, can you cut a promo for our hotline? And he's like, yo, this is Balls Mahoney. Listen to Blackheart Sports Entertainment Hotline. They're the only people you should call. They tell you the right things and they don't fuck around. And it's 2 minutes later and he's still talking. I'm sure you've all heard it. I played it on this show before. Balls Mahoney was a good guy, but he had his demons. And unfortunately, that's why he was no longer with us. But that is a true story. I paid for the fucking room. I don't remember the name of the hotel, but it was Hempstead Turnpike. That I remember. The motor vehicles was like 2-3 blocks away, and Balls needed a room. I got him the room, and he fucking trashed it, and there was blood all over the walls. The police actually came. The police actually came because they didn't know what they were dealing with over there. But if you don't believe me, you have the promoter still living that's online probably right now, and he'll tell you, no, Anthony, what he's saying is true. I got suckered into paying for a lot of things back then, but I don't take it back. I don't take it back. Frank Goodman gave me a lot of great memories that unless I become senile or get dementia, you'll never be able to take it away from me. So that is a true story. That is a true story. Tristan is asking me sweet tea or unsweetened tea. Well, because I'm on keto and I don't eat sugar in any way, I would have to go with unsweetened tea. So, Xander says, rest in peace, Chris Christopherson. A little bit before my time, but he had to be in his 80s. You know, great musician. I think 60s and 70s didn't he do something with Barbra Streisand back in the day? Very, very talented. I mean, you know, his music come through my AM radio, you know, back in when I was a kid, but 60s and 70s, I think, was his heyday. Chris Christopherson. Jeff is asking, is the Olive Garden authentic Italian food? If you pour a jar of Prego Alfredo sauce on a plate of pasta, would that be considered Italian food? Yes, but it's low budget. Because listen, Prego is cheap shit. But it's still heavy cream. It's still butter. It's still all of the ingredients that you would normally use to make Alfredo sauce. It's just not very good. So Olive Garden is a very cheap type of Italian food. Listen, I ate it all. I haven't eaten an Olive Garden in about 20 years. All I remember is loading up on breadsticks. That's all I remember. I remember eating a pasta dish, but I ate loads of breadsticks. I remember the breadsticks kept coming and I kept inhaling them. Honestly, if they would have had on July 4th at that time, like instead of hot dogs, they would have like a breadstick eating contest, I would have kicked the shit out of Fumanaki, whatever his name is. I would have beaten anybody. I would have shoveled all of the breadsticks. Douche S. Julia, Roxanne, and Bakor fell flat this week. Is it bad booking? WWE buying up talent that might go to AEW, WWE looking for an international expansion. It's none of that. Julia and Stephanie hasn't done anything yet in WWE. Julia has been working the house shows and getting great responses. You have to understand something. When it comes to the NXT audience in Florida, I was there one time. I saw it up close and personal. I always felt this way. When I saw it in person, I was convinced what I'm about to say. that audience in Florida, whether you are a heel or you're a baby face, if you show up to work every single week or on a regular basis and work your ass off, you are respected and acknowledged and appreciated. Julia is new. Stephanie Victoria is even newer. Roxanne Perez has been there. Roxanne Perez has been killing it. So you put anybody up against Roxanne Perez right now, unless they are an uber huge baby face on the main roster, unless it's like a Becky Lynch or somebody that is just Bianca Belair, no matter who you put, unless it's somebody that's a major baby face that's been in WWE for a while, the fans in Florida are likely going to favor Roxanne Perez. So Julia is still brand new. Julia, I laughed this week, and I hate social media, and I bite my tongue, and I realize it ain't worth fighting anymore. But I see people this week writing, oh, Jade Cargill's now been in the WWE for a year. Jade Cargill thought that WWE would be the stepping stone to go to Hollywood. And they show a screenshot of Samoa Joe with his TV series. Now they show a screenshot of MJF that's going to be in Happy Gilmore. They're trying to make it seem like, oh, look, Jade Cargill's been here a year and she ain't getting no Hollywood. Jade Cargill's still fucking new. She's still learning. And these people are already trying to, it just shows you the stupidity. Julia is new. Stephanie is newer. They're not acclimated to the NXT fan base as of yet, so they're not going to get this response that people think they're going to get. Period. Roxanne Perez is a regular, and that's why she gets favored. Got to give it time. You got to give them 6 months. There's still a lot of, it's new. It's new. You know, understand that noise on social media earlier this year about Stephanie, about Cora especially. Let's be honest, guys. You don't have to say this publicly. How many of you truly watched the Stephanie Victoria match before she had the match in AEW this year? How many of you truly ever watched one of her matches? I could say with pretty much assurance that about 95% of you out there never saw a match of her. So there's this aura about her that people are like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Holy shit, WWE stole her away. I'm like, you didn't give a fuck about her up until she had that one match in AEW. If she was this unbelievable hot commodity that, oh, she's the next huge superstar, how come nobody fucking talked about her up until that AEW match? Nobody said nothing. I don't think there's ever been a post ever come across my wall before this year. What do you think about Stephanie Victoria? You think she'll ever show up in AEW, WWE? No one wrote it. So, only point I'm trying to make is, for the regular NXT viewer, Stephanie Victoria and Julia are not these incredible names that, oh my God, I got to see her. And if you look at the NXT house shows, Julia's been advertised. They're in high school gymnasiums. They're not done to sell crazy amounts of tickets. They're so the people who are new to that roster get reps and perform in front of live crowds and get used to showing up and getting dressed and doing this and doing that. And it's not just weekly NXT. There's no cameras. You could let your guard down a little bit, but they still need some bigger names to, you know, attract some people. And it's suddenly, you don't see like hundreds of people waiting outside. I got to see Julia. She's going to be here today. Holy shit, I must see her. You know, she's not that household name yet, despite of what people want to tell you online. Jay is on keto right now. How long have I been on it? It's difficult starting out. Listen, I don't necessarily do keto now to lose weight. I mean, I'm trying not to gain weight. I'm not happy with my weight, but I'm trying not to gain weight. The only reason why I stay on keto is because I don't like inflammation. And any type of vegetable oils or any, seed oils, I get horrible inflammation. It's kind of wild to see how much inflammation you get from eating stuff like that, even sugars. I don't have anything with sugar. I don't have flour. I don't have breads, cakes. So I do it more to just feel better. I feel better. But, starting out, it's very, very hard. You got to take it slow. One good thing is if you do eat a lot of fat, don't overdo it because you'll gain weight. But if you do eat fattening stuff like a good steak, avocado, put olive oil on your salad, even have a little bit of cheese, that fat intake will keep you full for a hell of a long time. Today, what I had today, and this is no joke, I had this around 11 o'clock this morning. I had 2 eggs scrambled with bacon and a little bit of avocado in it and a little cheese. I just had it like that. And then about 6 o'clock tonight, I took a keto like flatbread and I put some pork. Can't remember the name of the pork, but they use it for like burritos. I put pork on it, sour cream, a little bit of cheese and some lettuce. I made myself this gigantic burrito and I ate that for dinner and I'm not hungry in the least right now. So, but you just got to be very, very careful. But, you will get some withdrawals. Take a lot of electrolytes because that'll help get rid of the keto flu because you will get some flu. It'll feel like you have a cold because your body is craving carbs. It's craving sugar and it's not getting it and it doesn't know what to do. So you start feeling sick. That's why, get a load of this, guys. When the vaccine for COVID first came out, you remember when they told you that you get the shot, then you may actually feel like you have a cold for a few days, but then it goes away? The reason why you feel like you get a cold for a few days is because when that outer coating disappears and the medicine starts hitting your body doesn't know what to do. Your body's getting instructions and it's like, what is this shit? And your body's trying to fight it, thinking that it's a foreign substance. That's why you feel like you have a cold. Your body's trying to fight the reaction to this stuff. But what happens is your body starts making antibodies to fight it. So now your body understands in the future, if you do get COVID, oh, I remember that. Let me make these same antibodies to fight it. You still get the cold, but when you get COVID, you got the real thing. When you get the injection, you're not getting sick from it, obviously. But the same thing with keto. When your body gets rid of all its carbs and there's none left, your body gets into a withdrawal. That's why some people, if you've ever been like addicted to alcohol or smoking is a good one, and you quit smoking, you get the chills, you feel sick. Why? Because your body's craving that nicotine and it's not getting it. So your body doesn't know how to react to it. So your body starts feeling sick. So with any type of craving, you used to drinking a lot of caffeinated beverages and then you go a few days drinking no caffeine. What happens? You start feeling sick. You feel like you got a cold. You got a headache because your body's looking for that caffeine and it's not there. It's anything. Say carnitas. That's what it was. I had carnitas tonight. Carnitas. Carnita. Elroy, what are my thoughts on AEW going to Fox? I've explained this before. It's fine. It's not that, you have to listen to everything that I talk about. Here's the truth about Fox, whether people want to hear it or not. AEW is not going to the same Fox channels that WWE was on. If you thought Fox censored WWE with blackouts and censors, could you imagine what they'll do to AEW? This is the truth, okay? Warner Brothers, this is the facts, okay? And this is not disputed. It's just people want you to believe something else because it sounds enticing and bigger, and it sounds like, Fox fucked WWE and they're taking AEW instead. Here's the truth. Warner Brothers Discovery, Disney, and Fox have all gotten together. They've created a sports channel called Venue Sports, VENU. Venue Sports was supposed to be a streaming service that was nothing but sports. And AEW would have been part of that. The problem is that Fubo TV filed a lawsuit, an antitrust lawsuit in court, saying that Disney, Warner Brothers Discovery, and Fox would be violating antitrust laws because they represent like 78% of all the sports that's on TV, or would have, okay? So now, because this is in court and the judge feels that this is a legitimate case, they're not going to try the case until October of next year. So as of right now, Venue Sports is on hold. That doesn't mean that Warner Brothers Discovery, Disney, and Fox still don't have a relationship together. So Fox has FS1, they got all different channels. It's just like Warner Brothers Discovery. You know, when you hear people saying, oh, AEW is going to be on True TV, why don't you go Google it? AEW reruns all across Warner Brothers channels already. AEW Dynamite is replayed many times during the week. It's already on these channels. It's just nobody brings it up. So when you hear Fox, the only reason why Fox's name is being mentioned is because Warner Brothers Discovery, Disney, and Fox are all working together for other projects. That's why Fox's name is being mentioned. If they were not creating Venue Sports and there was no relationship between Fox and Warner Brothers Discovery, Fox would not be brought up right now. So the idea that some people are trying to say, oh, Fox wants wrestling and they are choosing AEW over WWE, those people they don't even deserve to be working in a Starbucks. They don't have a goddamn clue what they're talking about. These people come up with these innuendos and these ideas that sound great, but this is why Fox's name is being brought up. So if AEW has any programming on a Fox channel, it's going to be one of their channels that they own, but understand that there's many different channels that are owned. So it's not that all Fox is looking to replace WWE. It's bullshit. There's a triple joint venture going on right now, and that's the only reason why Fox is being mentioned. That is the truth. And unfortunately, nobody will explain it like that because that's boring. Isn't it cooler to just put on a big thumbnail, AEW Fox? Oh my God. Fox said, fuck you, WWE, we'll take AEW instead. These are people that just need like an ego to feel like it's not what you think it is. Some people are really going to be exposed for their lies in a couple of days. That's all I'm going to say. Remember, I said this now. Few people online are going to really be exposed for some serious lying the last couple of days. I don't drink Starbucks, but I do make Starbucks Nespresso. Actually, this coffee that's almost done, it was Starbucks Columbia Nespresso. I used the regular Vertuo capsule, and then I add the original as an additional shot. How long have we been going? Wow, it's been 2 hours already. I think we should start bringing this home. Because tomorrow, Kevin and I are going to be live. We have a lot of stuff to get into. It's only about 5 topics, so there'll be a lot less topics than usual, but each topic is important. Bad Blood predictions, Raw review, Mr. McMahon overview, NXT Tuesday predictions. We're going to do a ratings prediction as well. I do think NXT breaks 1 million. I do. You know, when people say, oh, CW's average viewership is 560,000 viewers. Yeah, you're averaging every bullshit show that they have on there. Do you know that Raw is not USA Network's biggest ratings draw each year? You know that? I believe it's NASCAR. A lot of people think that Raw is USA Network's biggest rated show each year. It's not. It's actually, I'm pretty sure it's NASCAR. Raw might be number 2 or number 3, but it's not Raw. 316. Oh, you're very welcome, Elroy. That's what I'm here for. I'm not trying to spoil everybody's fun. Look, I want AEW to have a great fucking deal. I want AEW to get better. I really, really do. It's up to them to make it better. No matter what I say or what other people say isn't going to change anything. I'd rather be a little bit more realistic about things. You look at the Ray Phoenix thing. People out there, oh, Tony, you're turning into Vince. Oh, he's not. It's just what the wrestling business is. That's it. It's business. You got a guy leaving, bragging, he's going to go to WWE and do all this stuff. Oh, yeah, really? Oh, you know what? You've been out for a year. We're going to add time. It's in your contract. No, in my contract. Oh, yes, it is. Go get your English translator. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. It's in the contract. You agreed to it. That's it. You don't like it? Have a Snickers bar. Everybody out there losing their shit. Oh, Tony, you're fucked up. It's in the contract. Go have a Snickers bar. It's part of business. Don't like it? What did Ric Flair used to say? You don't like it? Learn to live with it. It do sound like me, though. Diva. How would I book Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley for Bad Blood? Have Dominic try to get out of the cage. I don't know if the cage is going to be suspended in the air. I would prefer it to be suspended in the air, but I think the problem is you got Hell in a Cell. See, nobody thought of that. How are you going to suspend the cage in the air if the Hell in a Cell is in the air? Then again, they may be suspended in the air after all. I think Dominic may be in a cage somewhere on the side. He's trying to get out. I hope that he doesn't get out, but I want to see Raquel Rodriguez show up. I want to see Raquel Rodriguez show up, either lay out Rhea Ripley, give a dirty look to Liv Morgan and still walk out and leave, or she teases that she's going to lay out Liv Morgan and she lays out Rhea Ripley and leaves. I don't want to see Raquel Rodriguez lay out both women. I think Raquel Rodriguez would be a good way to segue from Liv Morgan to Raquel for Rhea Ripley. Do you know, somebody pointed out something today to me that I thought was fabulous. I was kind of surprised how much heat he was getting for it. I'll share it with you right now. Yes, she was injured. I get it. She was injured. Guys, how many matches do you think Rhea Ripley... Now, she has. I want to make it clear, so I don't want anybody to say 0. How many matches do you think Rhea Ripley's wrestled on Raw this year? We're approaching October. How many matches do you think Rhea Ripley's wrestled on Raw this year? Micah Gonzalez says 4. Okay. Not going to say if you're right yet. Jeff says 12. Okay. Will Ryle Sports says 8. J. Cole says 5. Don Stody says 6. Nixie says 3. Should I tell you? I checked it. Against, oh my God, just drew a blank. The Pitbull in American Made. Holy shit, Ivy Nile. She wrestled Ivy Nile on day 1. She wrestled Ivy Nile on January 1, 2024. Go look it up. Kind of wild. Kind of blows you away, doesn't it? So I think it's a good way to segue away from Liv Morgan for a little while. Have Raquel Rodriguez feud with Rhea Ripley. So I want to double check it, but I'm kind of, like but I'm 99% sure that is correct. I don't want to look at my computer because it fucks up the audio, but let me see. Google. There we go. Let me check. I'll tell you right now. Rhea Ripley. Hold on. Rhea Ripley. Okay. Rhea Ripley match listing. Okay. All right. We got WWE. Yeah, here it goes. Okay. I'm looking at it right now. Rhea Ripley, the last time she wrestled on Raw, I'm looking right now. We're at WWE Payback. I still don't see a Raw match. Here it is. Wait. Oh, wait. No. I'm in 2023. Oh, shit. Yeah. No, that's right. That is right. The last time she had a match on Raw was January 1, 2024 against Ivy Nile. She did wrestle a SmackDown match on March 29th, beating Shayna. Oh, it was a dark match. Oh, you don't count dark matches because they show up to give extra matches for the fans. Yeah, the last time she had a Raw match, January 1. How crazy is that? Let that sink in for a minute. 1. Yeah, 1 match. Kevin and I are going to talk about it tomorrow. So I think you got to have Raquel Rodriguez show up. Do you do something where Raquel rips the door off the cage? I would want to see that because it would look goofy. And if it doesn't rip off smoothly, she'd look kind of ridiculous. So I say Liv Morgan retains. No matter what, Liv Morgan retains. Jeff is asking, could I turn the ads off during the live shows? I can. I mean, I don't predict like when they go off and stuff. I probably can. Yeah, I don't see why I can't. I mean, it's not like we make crazy money here. I mean, try to pay some of the bills, but, few people asked, the channel members are not going as good as, we were hoping it would, but we're not getting rid of them. We're still doing video versions. I kind of enjoy putting those video versions together. It's adding a little bit of extra to it. So I just got to be careful with the videos because I got hit with a copyright the other day. When you all saw that video with Cardi B and SummerSlam, I'm not a fan of her music, but there's enough of you that are, so I'm not going to knock it. But what I did was check what I did. I took the commercial for Cardi B and Bianca Belair, and I edited half the commercial out. Every few seconds, like when it would cut from like Cardi B talking and Bianca Belair talking on her headset, like I would cut like a couple of seconds off of it. And I did like maybe 13 or 14 edits of that commercial and took out half of it, and WWE still flagged it. I'm like, motherfucker, I edited that thing down. I cut 14 parts of it out and they still flagged me. So I had to take it out of the stream. That's a good one, 316. How many matches has Liv Morgan had this year on Raw? She's definitely had a few. But I honestly did not think Rhea only had 1. That's crazy. I'm sure before we finish the show, someone checks. I'm sure someone's checking right now. How many matches? My quick prediction is that Liv Morgan has probably had 5. Actually, I will say 7. Because Liv has wrestled with Dom a couple of times, at least 2 or 3 times. Jeff is asking, where's Shinsuke Nakamura? He is in his hotel room right now. It's 10:15 at night. The house shows are done. And he's probably showering and having some room service and going to bed. Now, whenever somebody asks me a question like that and it's late at night, I usually say they're home. Shinsuke will be back on TV soon. I wouldn't be surprised if Shinsuke's on one of these NXT shows coming up. I think that would actually be a great way to bring Shinsuke back to TV. No, the truth about Shinsuke is he's had an injury. I don't know if it was a leg injury, but Shinsuke had a minor injury, and that's why Shinsuke was off TV. But he should be close to a return. I'm not going to do a Meltzer and say he's ready to return. So I could, because if I could do that, then I could do it Thunder Rosa and say, hey, Shinsuke, when will you return? He did have a leg injury, but, last I heard, he's doing well, and he should be back soon. I said, did I say 7? I originally said 5, and I think I said 7, right? Did I say 7 matches? Because if I did, then I'm on a weird, correct streak. 7. That is the actual number. Liv Morgan has had 7 Raw matches this year. Kind of makes sense. Kevin Milwaukee is asking, what do I think Kevin Dunn is going to do going forward, career-wise, now since he's not with WWE? Can someone check Kevin Dunn's age? I'm curious to know how old Kevin Dunn is. I would think Kevin Dunn has got to be in his 60s. I think Kevin Dunn maybe gets into, marketing. He's definitely not 33 years old. He's 69. Kevin Dunn will either stay retired or he will end up working for a marketing firm, an advisor somewhere. Kevin Dunn has made so much money, he doesn't need to work anymore. I will tell you this report that they're working on a counter film for Netflix is some of the dumbest shit that I've ever heard. It's almost as dumb that Vince tried to buy back Netflix. How do you buy back something you haven't seen? It sounds good because people yeah, Netflix said no. Fuck you, Vince. You don't get what you want this time. They take it personal. I think, as horrible as this sounds, I think some people on Twitter are more upset at Vince than Janelle Grant. And I'm not kidding when I say that. You seen the way some people are online? Oh my God. And the funny thing is, and I'm just calling it like I see it, 95%. Here's something that you'll get a kick out of. Because most of you do not do this. But when you see people unhinged on Twitter, especially towards WWE or AEW, 95% of them are single. And as wild as that sounds, and believe me, the reason why I'm sure of it, because every time I see somebody unhinged, taking it way too personal, Triple H, I hope you have a heart attack. You let Drew lose at Clash at the Castle again. I hope you die. Every person that I saw writing that, I clicked on their page. I'm I got to see who this person is married to or who's dating. What brain dead fool would want to be involved with someone like that? And almost every time it's single. Or there's no mention of a girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse, significant other. It's usually, single and ready to mingle. So, Rojo Bear, fucking channel member for not 1 month, not 2 months, not 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 20, 28, 29, 30, 35, 38, 43 months. That is awesome, man. That is awesome. That is awesome. If everybody would be a channel member for just 1 month, then business would be good. But it's all right. We don't do it to, we're not out like that. As long as you support what we do, download the shows. If anybody else out there says, hey, could you recommend me a good wrestling show? Tell them about DTKC. You don't even have to tell them about this show. Just tell them about what we do. You could subscribe. Subscribing is free. Just subscribe. That helps too. I mean, we'd love to get to 40,000. I joked with Kev. I said, Kev, we're 37.8 for the last 6 months. If we get to 50,000, would you consider doing a regular weekly show on YouTube? It's maybe. But we're not YouTube. You know what I mean? I see what's floating around there. I see what shows up on my feed. I see the stuff that shows up on my feed. Now I'm getting infiltrated by Stevie Richards stuff. Oh, Undertaker, took out the right to censor. I'm like, oh, again. Oh, what Vince McMahon used to say to me in the locker room. What I ate for dinner last night. It's like, come on, man. Like every other feed, it's Bischoff ripping AEW. It's Stevie Richards complaining about something. It's Dutch Mantel telling me about people bleeding from 30 years ago. It's other wrestlers. I think the only ones that kind of like I'm digging is Conan and Rob Van Dam's. I think those are the only two. Vince Russo is okay, but even his sometimes kind of rattles my brain. But then you got the others. Forget it. The other ones, forget it. I'll start drinking paint. Seriously. I have this microphone sanitizer because this show is brought to you by Kobe Labs. Microphone sanitizer. You may not realize it, but talk on your microphone a few times and your microphone will smell like a dead horse. So when you, once in a while, you spray your microphone, minty fresh. That is legit, man. And you know how embarrassing it is that your wife sits at this table and says, can I use your computer for a minute? Yeah, use the one that I do my shows. And she's on the computer and she's like, something smells like it died in here. And I'm like, I don't eat in here. She's like, there's something. Maybe the dog took a shit under the desk. And I walk over and I'm like, oh, I think it probably smelled worse than when Vince took a dump. It smelled like, that smell of horse? Like when you go to like a barn, that's what it smelled like. This stuff is really, really good. Thank God if you notice it's still full, so I don't have to use it that often. But that is legit. That's my honest advice. Any of you out there ever start podcasting and you have a microphone like this, trust me, once in a while, spray something. You don't realize it until you walk away and you come back. You ever smell like a 95-year-old woman that hasn't showered in 15 years because they can't climb into the shower anymore? That's kind of what this smelled like back in the day. Do Patreon downloads count? On the overall numbers, no. But that's okay. I mean, Patreon downloads and channel members on YouTube, that doesn't factor into the overall stats, but I will tell you one thing that really sucks. This sucks. Let me tell you something that really sucks. You'll all appreciate this. Once in a while, we show the charts, how we're doing. So Kevin and I's goal in 2025 is to get back to number one in the United States. In Canada, those are the two. UK, we're already in the top 20. So every day we monitor the charts. We see where we're trending, what shows are doing better than others. I see how the daily news updates are going, and I see, how much, downloads for the longer shows, 45 minutes, and how much the 15 minutes are. Believe it or not, a couple of times the shorter shows are not as popular, which is fine. You would think the opposite. So 2 days ago, we're in the top 5 in 10 countries. And I send the links to Kevin, Kev, go check this out. And I send it to him. He's like, oh, that's fucking cool. So about an hour later, he sends me a DM and he says, could you send me the link? I said, yeah. So I go back to get the link. And I get this giant pop-up ad on my screen. And it says, Chartable will be discontinuing their service December 15th. And it was like, oh, Spotify is getting rid of that service that charts everybody. So as of December, those charts are no longer. So now I don't know how we even track it going forward. I mean, I could look at my original hosting company because they splice ads, so I don't have to pay $1,000 a month for a service. But I could see those numbers, but now I can't compare it to everybody else's, which sucks. I think how people will be able to track is when you go to Spotify and you go to like top lists, it'll just show you the top shows. I think that's the only way. But you won't know like number ranking and stuff, which sucks. Hopefully a company out there finds out about it and they figure, hey, we can make some money. We can do it. So it's kind of like the ratings. Have you noticed nobody reports the Impact rating anymore? Have you noticed that some of the shows, like the numbers come in very late now? That what I said about the quarter hours, it looks like it was true, that those quarter hours are fake. They're fake. Again, ask those people, how you want us to credit you for giving us the quarter hours. How come you don't credit where you got it from? I bet you anything you want to bet, they don't respond. Bet you that we do our own research. Well, you get it from someone. Where do you get the research from? That's none of your business. That's when you know somebody's lying. When Raw goes to Netflix, no more ratings. CW will still have rating. But CW won't have quarter hours. Again, ask yourself, how come you don't get the quarter hour breakdowns for a baseball game? Or tennis? Or a basketball game? Oh, look. What was that? Caitlin Clark? Oh my God, she went on an amazing run during quarter two. I wonder what quarter two's rating skyrocketed to. You never notice, never get quarter hour breakdowns for anything else. It's because they don't exist. But hey, who am I to say it, right? All right, we're going to wrap this up in 7 minutes. So we exited 2.5 hours exact. I'm glad my voice held up today. I do have a little bit of congestion still. I'm sure you could hear that from this COVID stuff. But man, what a difference a week makes. I'm just surprised that it's still, hitting me anyway. This morning I got up, I felt a lot better compared to yesterday. And, I think the worst is over. So will I show more of me doing indie crap stuff? Yeah, in the near future I will. There's a couple other videos that I have to convert digital from. I want to show the one where I managed Shark Boy because that was cool. Let me tell you what was so cool about it. I never realized how good I could throw a beer. I don't drink beer, and we didn't rehearse it either. Shark Boy wrestled for VPW once in the main event. I think he took on Jason Static, and I managed him. And I made a cooler. And I actually had his face embedded on the cooler. So the cooler looked like it was custom for him. And we made these fake Budweiser labels, and they had Shark Boy's head on them. And he went to the top turnbuckle, and I started throwing him beers, and he's catching them, and he's guzzling. And I was like, holy shit, I never, ever threw beers. Like, how many times have you ever thrown a beer to someone? You take it out of the refrigerator. Hey, can I have a beer? Sure. You hand it to the person. Yeah, look, here's your beer. How many of you out there like, oh, you want a beer? Like, no one does that. But I was tossing beers and he's catching them. I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe it. That's why I want to show that footage. It's pretty cool. So Dean was funny guy, man. He's still around, obviously, but he's a guy I miss talking to. He was funny. The day he was on my wrestling hotline is a day that I'll never, ever forget because we were pissed drunk and I had to delete the report because I was behind the wheel. I'm not proud of it, but it was kind of weird because I was driving around. We were drunk, laughing, making fun of people. And people were leaving messages within 10 minutes of it. We actually stopped by the airport hotel. And he's like, oh, see if anybody left messages. So I call on my flip phone and put it on speaker. Message 1. Oh, that's funny shit. But that's fucked up. You're driving while you're drunk. And almost every person who left a message threw that in there like, man, what don't you I'm kind of ashamed of you, DT. Pull over. And we were like, oh, I got to delete it. So do I see Eric Adams doing any jail time? No, I don't think so. I got to see more information come out. It doesn't look good, but again, I don't trust anybody in government. Doesn't surprise me anymore. There's people out there that will take money and take favors and, just take stuff and, it's fucked up, man. It's fucked up. And that Diddy stuff, let me tell you something about the Diddy stuff before we go. The thing that amazes me the most about the Diddy stuff, something for you to think about. Because everybody that brings up Vince and compares Vince to Diddy, this is what I think of. I think of the hundreds of people that were at these parties and witnessed illegal activities and fucked up activities and very, very disturbing stuff. Never said nothing. Never said nothing. Replace that with the women that Vince was involved with for 30 years. Never said nothing. Replace it with other celebrities out there. Never said nothing. What does that tell you? For most of these people, pay for my silence and everything is fine. Nobody goes to the cops. Everybody goes to a lawyer for money. I don't know. And the funny thing is, a lot of people think that the feds cracked down on Diddy because of somebody who was a rival. Somebody was a rival. Instead of, hey, let's take this guy out, a la Tupac style. No. We'll just get the feds. Let him get so depressed and sick in jail, that'll torment him. That's better than taking him out on the street. It's amazing how many people kept silent, said nothing. People who were victimized, people who were abused. Every single person took money instead of going to the cops. So when you hear accusations from Vince or from anybody out there, you say to yourself, how come nobody ever goes to the cops? How come nobody ever goes to the cops? When was the last time you heard about an actor or an actress, for the most part, or an athlete, that something happens and the day after, right to the cops? Right to the cops. It almost never happens. You hear about it a year later when they're being sued or, somebody, you never hear, like, if somebody attacked me today or attacked my wife or something, it would be in fucking cops the next day. Everybody takes money instead. That's why, honestly, it's not that I don't have sympathy for victims, but when your immediate thought is to get paid instead of going then your justice is to line your pockets. That's your justice. When the lawyers for Janelle Grant say, we want justice, I don't know what justice is because we don't know what actually was criminal, what was against her will. If she got played, you're like, what's justice? If she got played, if Vince played her like a fiddle and she went along with it and she was promised a beautiful future with Vince and then it didn't work out that way and she feels burned, bad relationship, it's like, what's justice? If Vince didn't stop the NDA, if Vince didn't stop the payments, would this lawsuit be going on right now? Right? I mean, at one point, she accepted the NDA. And as I said with Kev the other day, if she was totally under duress the entire time, and if Vince abused her the entire time, how could she think that she was in love? If she thought that she was truly in love, how could you truly believe that you were in love at some point if you were being abused? Right? Like, put it this way, if I'm 80 years old and a 30-year-old woman gets in my life and I have crazy money and she's taking care of me, and she's saying, oh, I love you, this, and that. And meanwhile, she's grooming me, to get to my bankroll. I may think that I'm in love, but the entire time, she's doing things to make me feel one way, but she's setting me up. But everything that she did to set me up, if she didn't set me up, it would be love. She's saying she was under drugs. She was saying she was under this. She was saying that she was mentally tormented, that she was this. When was it just love before? Don't know. All right, let's wrap this up. Curator Vibrations. Send this run in the very end. Thank you for the 10 spot, my friend. American Made needs to start winning. Creed Brothers are the best tag team in WWE right now. Gable can go with anyone. Perk Gable. And Minnie Luna Vachon, Ivy Nile needs to get a chance too. The Creed Brothers are still new, and the Creed Brothers are heels, so fans are happy when they lose. When you are a heel, fans are happy when you lose. Drew McIntyre is a perfect example of that. Look at Drew McIntyre's record on the house shows against Jey Uso. Somebody called him the most expensive jobber in the WWE. Drew McIntyre is not a jobber. But when you go to individual house shows, they understand their audience, that the fans will be more entertained to see Jey Uso beat Drew McIntyre. And if you watch the way Drew loses, it's usually a stupid fuck up, and then Jey capitalizes and wins from it. Doesn't mean he's being jobbed out. The Creed Brothers right now are still new, and they're heels, so the fans want to see them get their ass kicked. So they're being utilized the right way right now. Ivy Nile is fine. Ivy Nile, I think, will start getting some momentum. She's still extremely new. She has no wrestling background. She's only got a couple of years under her belt, and most of it was NXT. So she's just learning still. She's got a long ways to go. Long ways to go. But she's definitely earned her keep. Ivy Nile is very much established herself on Raw. Give it a little time. But I do agree, you can't have them come across as just a job team. They do need to get a win once in a while, even if they cheat to win. Even if there's some bullshit antics that lead to a victory. But they do need to get some wins. They really do. And Gable Brothers may turn around and say, you promised us all this success, and we ain't finding it. And that could be the way they split down the line. So I think the bigger story may be that Chad thought he was going on to bigger and better things, and that's not the case. My bigger concern is the Wyatts. What are they going to do now? Hopefully they go to Judgment Day. I hope they go to Judgment Day. I think I've already talked about the scenario countless times in the past. I think the Judgment Day and the Wyatts would be pretty fucking interesting. I just picture Dom and Liv in the ring, the lights go out, and immediately the crowd will be chanting, holy shit. And then they realize that the Wyatt Six are going after the Judgment Day. And you look at the pairings, and it works. Carlito would get his ass kicked. Nikki Cross could go at it with Liv. You could have, Joe Gacy and Dexter Lumis go after the tag titles. You could have Bo Dallas go after Finn Balor. Even if you wanted to go a step further and have the Demon come back and have the Demon go at it against Uncle Howdy. There's a lot of ways you could go about it. I think it fits like a glove, but I think right now, they need to worry about the Wyatt Six a little bit more. So, all right. I think with that said, I'm going to jet. We are at 2 hours and 35 minutes. Right about the same amount of time from last week, maybe a little bit longer this week, but I had a great time. Glad my voice held out. I'm going to get this show online and get to sleep as quickly as I can. My wife actually starts a new job tomorrow. Very, very big job. And I got to drive her to work. So I got to get my ass up a little bit earlier than usual. So I'm going to jet out of here. But don't forget, Monday night after Raw, Kevin and I will be live in our Discord channel, dtkcdiscord.com. We're going to be recapping Raw. We're going to do predictions for Bad Blood, predictions for NXT on Tuesday. We'll do a little ratings prediction for fun as well. We'll talk about AEW's 5th anniversary show because we do expect the TV deal announcement to be made on that show. We'll also talk a little bit about the Mr. McMahon documentary, our overall thoughts, a few things that we had a problem with, a few things that they left out. And that's pretty much what the show's going to be. So about 5-6 topics tomorrow, but each one is very, very big in its conversation. So be much easier synopsis to write up. That's for sure. But I hope you can join us. We'll be live at 11:15. And, oh shit, I just realized it. Tomorrow night will be the last night that we started 11:15 until at least the end of the year, because a week from tomorrow, Raw is only 2 hours, which means the DTKC show will start at 10:15 Eastern every Monday night. So tomorrow is the last Monday for the foreseeable future that we will be starting at 11:15. So it'll be pretty cool. 2-hour Raw, sure, a little bit less to talk about, but still, you start an hour earlier. You only have to deal with 2 hours of Raw to absorb. I think it'll help the shows quite a bit. The interesting thing is, who's going to be left out? That extra hour is going to leave out quite a few people. Unless they start building some factions, there's going to be some people left out. And if you don't bring them to SmackDown, some people are going to be out of a job. Sure, they could go back to 3 hours in January. We'll talk about that as we get closer. We've explained why we think it'll be 3 hours again. But we'll see what happens. And El Guero, thank you for that on the way out. Much appreciated. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So, my friends, I'm out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Why can't I like this? Now I can. I'll be live tomorrow with Kev. I'll be here next Sunday night at 8:05. And, one last thing. Tuesday, Patreon. We've been doing the shows at 8:30 p.m. Because NXT's going to CW and there's some very big matches and everybody wants to see the debut for the most part, Tuesday's Patreon show will be live at 10 p.m., 10:05 p.m. instead of 8:30 p.m. We'll wait until NXT ends, then we'll do that show. Now, I'm supposed to do a daily news update Tuesday night as well. I might actually post the Patreon show as the daily news update because once a year we used to put up like a sample Patreon show so people get an idea of what those shows are like in case they ever want to sign up. We haven't done that in like 2 or 3 years. So this Tuesday might be the perfect opportunity to put that up instead of a daily news update. I'm not sure yet. We got to see what we're talking about first. But one thing is for sure, Tuesday's Patreon show will start at 10 o'clock instead of 8:30. So be well, everybody. Much love, and I'll catch you all again soon. Okay.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other Goodfellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. Doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.